Yeah, what's the deal? What's going on? This is a live recording and one of my first live recordings and won't be the last. I will definitely say that. And first and foremost, I just want to say gratitude. You know what I'm saying? So indeed, gratitude, greetings, and much respect to any and everybody that come across these videos or my channel, my page, all of that. You know what I'm saying? This is, you know, more than heartfelt, more than overdue, and definitely high demand. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that. You know what I mean? But a high demand that I open up the space and communicate about my spiritual path. You know what I'm saying? And let the world know. You know what I'm saying? And let the universe know. You know what I'm saying? Who I am and what I'm about. You know what I'm talking about? But you see the name Gotti 777 and some might know me as Maserati Gotti, you know what I'm saying, as an artist, rapper, whatever, creator. Shit, if you know, you know, you know what I'm saying? Um, how I would like to start, shit, I don't know where to start because I would say, I'm deep in, you know what I'm saying, my spiritual journey, you know what I'm saying? I'm deep in that shit, and I love it, first and foremost. I'll say that off top, you know what I'm saying? I ain't never, like, how can I say, regretful of my path and the paths that I have walked or chosen. But I will say that on a sense of awareness and consciousness, I'm in deep with this shit and I love it. I love where I have, matured, have grown, and elevated myself to because essentially that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? Is raising awareness and connecting with, your higher self, the God within yourself. You know what I'm saying? Being able to unveil and unmask, this illusion, right? And understand what's really on the inside, So having done that, having, gone through the emotions so many ways, in a way of I say tried and true, you feel me? Is I can say it's been a journey, it's been an adventure, it's been lovely, it's still lovely, it's still an adventure, it's still what it is, but I know based on me being in tune and connecting with myself, connecting with the earth and maybe other planets and stars and all of that is right. It's meant for me to speak. You know what I'm saying? It's meant for me to open up the space to speak and conduct what needs to be conducted in this consciousness. The universe. And so I'm not gonna say that. No, I'm gonna say it. I'm learning how to do that more. You know, and doing that more on a higher octave, I'd say. Not so much, in the lower vibrations of conspiracy or survival and only, relying on outside influences, topics, discussions, subjects, all of this shit that go on outside in that world, you know what I'm saying? Whatever that world is, really getting to understand my own world, my own universe, and how I operate my own interplanetary being, and how that operates, itself, so I can then let's say adapt to my higher nature, right? And so this is where I find, like I said, I'm deep in, but okay, we good. So yeah, so where I've been, in just this current, it's been such a great space, and I'm glad to be where I'm at, even though I wanted to share and just get right. And it's something it's something different for me to do because I'm not really gonna start shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not my thing. So I don't have a problem adapting and and building with others and shit like that. But when it comes to like start some shit, that's my thing. I guess I gotta get over. And I mean that's with everything in my family journey as far as like they got a lot of things as far as like tasks and some would say shoes to fulfill, or some I just say you got big shoes to fulfill. is. That's what I was telling myself the other day. You know what I'm saying? As far as that yeah. I was just telling myself the other day that nigga got some big shoes to fill, and recognizing that these shoes are my shoes as far as my higher shoes and my higher self, right? And where how I operate, how I move, is expected and required to be in a higher way based on what's known. And so getting more centered, grounded, and and comfortable with the opportunity, with the path being open and having opened myself up into awakening. And that's the main thing that I want to speak about. So I'm glad that I just kind of entered in that whole dynamic. But yeah, I really want to speak on the purpose of awakening from my philosophy of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And I'm gonna say this: that my philosophy is constantly growing as knowledge and truth is constantly growing. So essentially, I study, I mean, all forms of knowledge, all things, of gnosis, what I'm saying? That's my thing. And so within the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of it, I find, well, introducing my philosophy as I'm reading from my notes, introducing my philosophy of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding the purpose of awakening God or raising awareness in oneself. And so understanding, who you are and getting to know that, what I mean, this is where you get to develop your own and the truth. Feel me? And so this is where you get to conclude or come to a conclusion in oneself where you know what I'm saying, stand tall, what I mean, or let's say understand, right? And so that's where I find on an interconnected level of the spirit and the soul nature, all of this activity that we look for so vastly beyond the physical, right? It's really internal, it's really inside, it's really spiritual, it's really within your awareness. As much as we can even say it's inside, it's internal, it's all of that, right? What is it in? You know what I'm saying? It's in your awareness. And so I find within, the knowledge and in one's awareness, one must, of course, like you say, you got to pay attention. What you pay attention to definitely, determines what you receive and what you are, digesting as far as information and things of that nature. And so that's one of the main things that when awakening and when, coming online to some people might say, you might look at certain things different. You might see certain things that you was once attached to, people, places, and all of that, like totally different. Or you might see it just for what it exactly is that you didn't see before. And so that is something that could be, you know, nerve wracking to a lot of people who don't understand or who don't know as far as what they're going through, or let's say the path that they're undergoing based on whatever situation or circumstance. Because everybody awakens differently. And so this is where you get to understand everybody's path is different. Everybody's life, or let's say, yeah, everybody's path is different based on who they are and where they are in a, let's say, soul nature and spiritual being. You know what I'm saying? And that beingness, everybody has their own, ordained path that they're down here for. Whether they're doing it or not, everybody down here on their own shit, right? And some people, link up on the same vibration and rhythm and all that. A lot of people do, but it's all whether, let's say you don't really know that you do it until you do it. And it's like, oh, I met you here and we were doing this. We connected on this. And that's how we know each other, right? So that common, that's that common sense is not common. But, I ain't going to go into that. And so just understanding that everything is spiritual. That's what I'm going, what I want to pretty much get the audience to understand. And when we say everything is spiritual, we got to understand the element of the spirit or space that some might even consider, we would say, energy. And in that energy, in that composite of energy, you got all elements of fire, earth, air, water, akasha, metal, and some you want to consider that, you know what I mean? And this is how we come into being through the unification of these things. And I say that because all these things operate and exist in their own right, but they have their own purpose and agenda themselves as elements. You know what I'm saying? So getting to understand the element of nature and how nature operates as far as within, so without, as above, so below. And I ain't gonna lie to you, it's really no as above and so below. If you ask me, I feel that it's as within, so within, because all is within. So ain't nothing really outside of you. You know what I'm saying? That's how I see it, and it's what it is. Because when it all boils down to it, it goes back to one's awareness. So this is where you can't really forget. You must remind yourself or be remembering of the self, as some of the text in the Bible even speaks of, even all the religions talk about, as far as remembering of the self and shit. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, this is all an interconnected dialogue, I might say, if I'm saying the right word, of how things manifest, how we manifest, how we operate, how we do what we do, and how we also can then be more effective in that, as in alchemy, magic, transmutation, creation, the things that we do. So, like, eloquent, right? And let's say it seems as though it seems as there is no cause when there is, and so therefore identifying with that, getting to know that part of you that is just so great in the essence, in the purity, or in the true state, right? This is where you can then, go to those. That's when you can go to those not so unlikely places or spaces of yourself, and release that or integrate that, or change that, transmute that, however you need to do. But let's say you can raise awareness or bring light to the shadow and to the darkness, and that's what what I mean. That's the whole purpose I find. Not even that, just the whole purpose, but within that whole purpose itself, element of your nature. That's what I'm gonna say. And that whole purpose of raising your awareness and awakening to your own nature, within the God or goddess that you are, you then understand, what I'm saying, who you are. And so you get to know yourself in all ways of being. And this is where you get the aspects from, as the elemental are. And you get to respect nature, you get to respect yourself more. But not that I don't want to jump ahead of myself and get into that, because essentially it's more so about knowing thyself, and to thyself be true, as a lot of the great teachers have said. So I would say, in knowing thyself, you become an understudy of your own self mastery. Knowing that, what I'm saying, there is no greater being outside of you. You know what I'm saying? So recognizing that greater essence, or as some call upper echelon energy of you, that is beyond, or let's say, yeah, beyond this physical. You know what I'm saying? And when you start to, I would say, connect with that, how you draw it down. I don't want to say break down. How you draw it down consciously. You know what I'm saying? From your, let's say, imagination, from your emanation, from your, from the way that you operate. That's when, what I mean, you get to true. That's when you get to truly show up as who you are and be that in that beingness. Not only that, it'll be seen in just as it is as you are. So this is where recognition, self-realization, all of that jazz, what I'm saying, is significant, because you could be doing things already that's great. You could already be, what I'm saying, the top nigga, or the baddest bitch, and not even recognizing that, what you got is so potential to spark something, let's say so transformative in the world, or let's say just in your little operation. You know what I'm saying? And so it's because, like, man, it gets so it gets so it gets so intriguing when it comes to knowing thyself, I find, because you understand that knowledge is constantly growing and being, let's say, discovered or created or formatted, you know what I'm saying? And so then how we, bring things, into existence in a sense of awareness is kind of fascinating. It should become fascinating when you understand how you're doing it and how you do it as, let's say, a sacred, connection, or a sacred ability, in the sense of what makes you unique, is your energy, and how you identify that and become aware of that is that how you can further operate and vibrate is connecting back to the soul, and that's a lot of what the purpose of awakening is. And let's say within that, evolving oneself from a particular part of oneself, or what I'm saying, connecting and getting on your path, because not everybody, is, I would say, I don't say everybody's not meant to awaken, but everybody is not meant to awaken. I should say it like that. Yeah, everybody ain't meant to awaken. So everybody's not gonna awaken because based on the soul and the spirit that chose to come here in this human body and do what it's doing, it has a certain, let's say, scheduled programming that it's on. You know what I'm saying? So when you can, let's say, understand that of one's own self, then you can, start to try to get into that. You know what I'm saying? When you raise awareness, you raise your consciousness, you can try to, change some things within the computer. You know what I'm saying? You can change the schedule programming and, what I'm saying, and however you want to, encode and decode this reality for yourself, for your greater good. And overall, this ain't no, let's say how I got here, wasn't no easy fucking ride. I'll say that, you know what I'm saying? And so I'll be thankful and I'll be overly, joyous and grateful just to share and open up. And sometimes I don't know how to do that, and that's where, I say, I don't know how to start, but I'm starting right now because I understand that it's many other, young black men like myself, what I'm saying, that's going through plenty of spiritual shit, you know what I'm saying, and you know what I'm saying, need to raise awareness. So I come, within the space of the universe, you know what I'm saying, to let niggas know that yeah, man, get on your path, and if you're on your path, stick to your motherfucking guns for real. Because right now, in this current space, it is a lot of shit, you know what I mean, that could be trying to interfere and, make you, get a nigga off a nigga path, or let's say take you to a path you already conquered or mastered or got over. And so essentially, certain things might be resurfacing and just coming up as as like a replay, right? But you gotta know your choices. You know what I'm saying? You gotta know you got a choice. You gotta know you got free will, and the free will of who you truly are and what you know of who you are. This is what you know what I'm saying. You command in yourself. Before you do anything to anyone or whatever, or before you command to anything, comes down to commanding your mind and commanding speaking, what I'm saying. I'm talking about intuition and the inner voice, of course, but even so much as to say even your verbal physical voice, what I'm saying, recognizing your power in all things that is within, what I'm saying, as far as within awareness, because this is where you won't, let's say, you won't lack, you won't take, or you won't take to lack, we'll say, what I'm saying, but you won't lack at all because you're then adapting and adopting to the abundance of the space that you're creating or already in, whereas your adaptability becomes greater based on intuitive nature. And so you start to understand greater, right? So, this is that harmony, what I'm saying? This is that essence, this is that purity, this is that, that heavenly state that a lot of people, talk about. Some, the Buddhists call it nirvana. You know what I'm saying? So many people got different names for it and all that shit. But we could just, call it harmony for this matter because we talk about on an elemental level, on an elemental way of nature. This is where one is able to connect, or let's say, yeah, one is able to connect all the elements in a way of harmony, or let's say song, dance, or however the shit might be, right? Just as for example, where all things is taking place exactly the way they need to be. You know what I'm saying? And so this is where you get to optimize, the things in your mind to actually fix and cultivate how you see things ought to be in your reality. Just opposed to just taking shit. You know what I'm saying? And I say that because the world will give you anything. You know what I'm saying? Like you can wake up, nigga, and anything can happen, bro. You know what I'm saying? As far as a nigga not constantly thinking, whereas not being aware of self, not operating in the truth, not being true to who you are at all times. And it's not even to be so critical in the mind, but whether in the spirit, you know what I'm saying? So operating and knowing ourselves, and you know what I'm saying, showing up the way you supposed to, and knowing how, man, shout out to my God, because he said even when I want to, you know what I'm saying, I still show up myself to be. You feel me? And so that's some real shit because you never know what a motherfucker going to do. You know what I'm saying? And you never know what you might be going through when it comes down to, let's say, the things that get unveiled and revealed unto you when, you know what I'm saying, shit hit the fan and you know, shit take place. So when it comes to your adaptability, right, and how you know what I'm saying, navigate and move around based on your vibration and your energy, that shit, you know, is a key factor. You know what I'm saying, when it comes to not being knocked off your pivot, not being detoured and derailed on the path. I'm saying some form of enlightenment, transformation, or some greater awareness for beingness. You feel me? Because oftentimes, you know, shit, let's just be real. Certain shit just happen, bro. You know what I'm saying? As far as, you know, if you look at it beyond the physical and just energy and things taking place, shit is just happening where it's happening. And, you know, when you recognize your own happening, then you can understand how the events and timelines and things that connect and correspond with you is ultimately, you know, detailed in the way that you are then, you know, seeing things and operating communicating even, you know what I mean? That's a big thing as well. You know, changing, you know, our way of communication and how we speak, or, you know, or I should say, upgrading our dialogue when raising awareness. You know what I'm saying? So not being afraid to be, you know, in your higher self, in a greater awareness, in the consciousness of God. Let's just keep it all the way gangster. Not being afraid to be free, not being afraid to be at peace. You feel me? Because a lot of niggas is, you know, they look at that shit like it's weak, like it's soft, or like whatever. And it ain't. You know what I'm saying? When you understand truth, when you understand knowledge and wisdom, right? And so this is where, you know, the path, as challenging as however it might be, because I'm sure it's different shows to different folks. I just look at it as it becomes greater. So you know, I mean, like I said, I just looking to open up the space to, you know, share more and open up more within my own, you know, journey. And as I'm I'm a healer, you know what I'm saying? I work with psychedelic herbs is what I do. I travel with the mushrooms as well. So, you know, as far as me, you know, working with, you know, the psychedelics, my journey is my psychedelic journey, I should say, has connected me deeply with the ancestors and deeply with the spirit realm and just understanding the universe and nature and everything, you know, I say just as far as stuff that I'm interested in, you know, and I'll even say even more, you know what I mean? So my journey of mushrooms, I find, you know, has been so in depth, so beautiful, you know, even as challenging as wild as it can be, it has been, you know, I'm still very thankful for the lessons I've learned, for the journeys that have, you know, taught me the knowledge that I needed to know at the time that I needed to know for me to do what I needed to do and become who I am today. And that's just that, you know. So I look to share more of that because something that's so sacred and meaningful to me of a practice, I find does need to be shared and does not have to be, you know, what's the word? It don't gotta be like shit. What's the word? It's a fucking word. It don't gotta be like stingy. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm a little stingy, you know, in my stories and my journeys and shit. And I wouldn't say that I'm stingy, but I just take it very serious, you know, because it is serious. You know, it's not nothing a joke, you know what I'm saying? Although things could be, you know, fun, you know what I'm saying, and adventurous, but when you understand what's going on in the experience of what you're experiencing and you really doing, then you know you can actually get to embrace the space that you in and are part of, or either being welcomed into. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the respect, as I was saying earlier, that respect is something so, you know, it's something so valuable. You know what I'm saying? That when you have it within yourself, you know, ain't no way, you know what I'm saying, that let's say nature, the universe, et cetera, won't do what's needed or required in that. You know what I'm saying? Because we're talking about formatted, and operated from a certain, plane of resistance or frequency, right? Where, it's a certain upkeep that you should want to have. You know what I'm saying? When you know certain things and when you are, in awareness of certain things, especially when, hmm, I don't know the word, but when you know the truth, you know what I'm saying? You should not want to fight or negate against it. You know what I'm saying? You should want to find ways to make peace with that truth or that awareness, or like I said, you gotta agree with it, but to find some understanding. If you got some understanding, you got some common ground where you can, you know what I'm saying, sit down and have a drink with the truth. You know what I'm saying? Or you know what I'm saying, you can you know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm just throwing shit out there. But essentially, real talk, you gotta know thyself. And that's really what this path is about. When it comes down to the consistency and the journey of not giving up, and whatever your path may be, as far as, whether you're a magician, whether you're a healer, whether you are a warrior, what I'm saying, scientist, nigga, creator, musician, you know what I'm saying, lawyer, whatever you do, you know what I'm saying, street nigga, however you want to look at it, you know what I'm saying. These things are all emblems, and I say that because essentially these are emblems, and when you get lost in the emblems or whatever that is, then you get attached to the ideal outside of itself, and it ain't right. So understanding that the power to change and transform or become greater is not only is available now, but let's say you have that power available to you at all times to change the shift realities and do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? You don't gotta be boxed into this world as a prison. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people like to take the idea of that this earth or that this realm is a prison, and we'll just say that it can be. Because we understand jails and prisons exist, but a lot of people are just boxed into thoughts and ideas that were sold to them. And so, you gotta understand what was sold to you. You know what I'm saying? What is the shit that you bought? You know what I'm saying? And what did you invest into? What is the shit you've been digesting, constantly, knowledge wise? You know what I mean? And then that's when you can really get to, dissecting shit. You know what I mean? Like some people be shredding their bank statements. You know what I'm saying? You get to dissect the shit, release the shit, let shit go. You know what I mean? And just, you know what I'm saying? You get to receive more. You know what I mean? So definitely, don't be afraid to open up. You know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to open up your heart space. Because that's the space that I'm talking about. Because I know motherfuckers be like, this nigga definitely talking about space. Well, you're right. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely talking about space, but I'm talking about your heart space. Because that's the way, you know what I'm saying? And that's how, that's the way of receptivity, should I say that? You know what I mean? So when you open up your heart space, opening up more of that neutrality, you know what I'm saying? That is allowing all things to kind of persist or exist or be in the essence that it can be. You know what I mean? So you allow that potential, to pass through and then manifest and exist and become something just as you are. So recognizing yourself, you look in the mirror and know who you are as a star, you know what I'm saying, as a real star, then shit, man. You know what I mean? Hey, study and know thyself. You feel me? Because you hear that, you know what I'm saying? The journey becomes great. You know what I'm saying? So, it ain't about waiting anything or looking for anything outside of you, but as far as it's about how can you further, activate, you know what I'm saying? How can you initiate and keep creating through your own, emanation, you know what I'm saying? Through your own energy, through your own awareness, through your own beingness, through your own way, right? Because everybody got their own way. You know what I'm saying? And that's some real shit. That's what make everything and everybody unique. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got their own way. But when you can know that way and identify that way in the and I don't even want to say this word, but I'm gonna just say it in a specific, then it becomes that superpower. Then it becomes that supernatural ability is what I like to call it. You know what I mean? Because essentially these is all natural, things that we do from pouring out the drink unconsciously and from doing it consciously in the ritual, you know what I'm saying, like basic. So essentially all of these things, are valuable to be more effective, to be more true, we should say that. To be more true and then to be more effective is to then raise awareness and be conscious of oneself and know thyself and live by that. You know what I mean? Because if you don't, then essentially, you can't expect no sort of manifestation or whatever all that jazz motherfuckers be talking about. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that it ain't potential or possible, or it ain't things shit can't happen, but it may not be in your favor in the way that you want to respect it or how you intended. So this is where you gotta, check in with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because too many times niggas let her blame, all these deity forms. Niggas let her blame the earth, the universe, and all the shit like that. But at the end of the day, you are the universe. You are God. You are all that. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes down to you being a star, being a soul, being a spirit, being a being in nature, and just recognizing that, then you got to take accountability. You got to take credit for your actions or non-actions that, let's say, you are proud of or not proud of, or you agree with or don't agree with, because essentially this goes back to your free will. You know what I'm saying? So the responsibility of God and awakening, you know what I'm saying, is a true thing that one must uphold. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie. I don't think no book can teach that. I think that's the self. You know what I'm saying? Because true shit. When it comes to being responsible for your divinity and being responsible for your awareness and your truth and what you hold dear and sacred, and, in the vast amount of awareness that you hold, right? This is where we talk about value, worth, all of that shit. So I'm saying this, I'm saying, from my path, I've been on a spiritual path for forever. I feel like, not even like that, but I'll say this is like this is my definition, and I'm gonna just keep it all the way to you. You know what I'm saying? And by me, in this definition, I like the audience to, meditate on it. You know what I'm saying? So give it some thought. But I feel that since everything is spiritual, all life paths are spiritual. So the day I was born, I was on a spiritual path. You know what I'm saying? And so much so throughout my, let's say, trials, you know what I'm saying? My days, you know what I mean? Throughout my coming days of just coming to where I am now, I find that it is often spiritual, and the things that I've seen, things I've done, things that I've been drawn to, you know what I mean? It has led me to everything spiritual. And there you go. And so, with me being led by the spirit, I would say, you know, everything and yeah, everything is spiritual. And you know, everybody's path is different, but it's all spiritual. And so this is where I find, when we get to awaken, you know, when we get to awaken in the spirit or awaken the spirit, right? That's where we get to understand more of our path and the things we do, or the things we want to do, and how we do, why we do, where we get it from. You know what I'm saying? All this shit because we get to, like I said, we get to draw it down, or we get to understand how we drew it down in our own imagination. And I like to say that ain't nothing outside of you. You know what I mean? So you really can tap into you. You know what I'm saying? And get to breaking shit down, of things that are unseen, that may be, um, unbeknownst to you or unknown to you, or things that is going on, but it's just like, it's more to this shit. You have the answers for you. You know what I'm saying? You have the answers. So when you get to know that deep part of yourself, I find that the journey comes with a certain path of consistency in studying and knowing, but yet practicing wisdom. So that's the biggest thing, because wisdom is yeah, that's the shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, wisdom being what it is, if you don't practice what you preach, or if you don't apply what you know, we'll just say that. You feel me? Because shit, you don't practice what you preach, you know what that is. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna go there. But if you don't apply what you know, or are able to apply what you know, you then gotta go back to the drawing board or question the knowledge, or you know what I'm saying, you gotta figure it out. And this is where a lot of people, as far as on the conscious or the spiritual path, they get caught up in a conspiracy of wanting to figure things out. I don't know. Do I know? Is this that, or is it them, they, whatever? You know what I'm saying? And I think many of us, myself, been there. You know what I mean? From recognizing the mind and knowing that, like, hold on, this ain't teaching me nothing. I'm not growing here. You know what I'm saying? Recognizing where you're not adapting, recognizing where you've outgrown or you outshined a certain dynamic to where it's like, man, it ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, nigga, being able to choose your path and move forward within what you want to know, or let's say how much you want to know, because that's where the challenge is on one's own truth. You feel me? When we talk about desires or things of that nature, and shouts out to the Oracle, because I'll say some real shit. You know that with her describing desire as being something greater than physical, and I find it to be true, and I agree. It's something that our physical minds can't even grasp. What we do in desire of actual desire ain't even the full desire, and that is true. You know what I'm saying? So this is where we really gotta get into ourselves. That's my thing. Where you can get into yourself and you also want to get into yourself, you're not forced to do it, you know what I'm saying? Then, when having, arisen or awakened or, broken through or have breakthrough, you can then have gratitude. Let's say, like Brother Tony said, you can master your breakthroughs. So that's the whole purpose of that. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to awakening and going through the series of, journeys and quantum leaps and jumping timelines and all this shit. You know what I'm saying? Because essentially, you don't want it to get caught up in the rhetoric, in the media, and in the talk of this shit. You know what I'm saying? You wanna get on your motherfucking feet. Feel me? And I say this to you, like I say this to me. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it is, bro. So don't give up. As it was said, you know what I'm saying to me, don't give up on the spiritual path. Because I know plenty, you know what I'm saying, who just don't know where to start. And I find myself there, not even today, but I've been there for so long. I've been at the starting point, not knowing how to start, not knowing when to start, what to start. But it's like, fuck all that. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming from my heart, nigga. And like I say, bro, I've been in deep in this spiritual path study and all the things between, the tree of life, you know what I'm saying, the voodoo system, the Orisas, the Moors, the Muslim and the cult sides of Islam and Sufi. You know what I mean? I've been diving into a lot, when it comes down to my journey. But my foundation, I find, and I will say, is the mushroom psychedelics. That is what a lot of my foundation has been built on when it comes to my travels, my experiences, and when I come from my experience, me working with the herbs and connecting with ancestors has shown me so much, to where I'm at a point now I want to open up and share, and I've shared, in many different spaces and whatnot, but now I'm ready to do it more direct from myself, and not just like, nobody, reaching out to me and nothing like that. I'm ready to just, let it come from the horse's mouth because shit, it's just like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Nigga doing so much, man. Why would I hide this shit or why would I keep it to myself as far as like not not be able to share this massive amount, this abundance, this richness, this enrichment of enlightenment. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot of fuckery, being put out there in the world, and I ain't with that shit, man. And so this is for the monks, not the chumps. You know what I'm saying? Like Bobby Hemmings said, you can separate the motherfucking and separate the chumps from the monks. You know what I'm saying? This is for those that's able to withstand, that energy. You know what I'm saying? When it comes down to understanding being light in a dark world, we should say. You know what I mean? Being true to who you are. You know what I mean? Recognizing how to go within and going within, and being able to stand in the truth of who you are. You know what I'm saying? So it's not much more, what I'm saying, that I want to say, but I want to conclude this with gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Thank you. You feel me? Because it is much more to where this would be coming from. You know what I'm saying? I got so much more, what I mean, when it comes to just like, you know, topics of discussion and shit like that. So if you're interested in anything when it comes to, raising your awareness, awakening God, becoming God, and knowing God, you know what I'm saying? then you can comment when I drop it on YouTube, and yeah, you can comment and let me know what you want to talk about or what you think I should, what I'm saying, what should I look into? Because what I'm saying, I ain't saying I know everything, what I'm saying, I ain't saying that I'm greater than you. You know what I'm saying? That's word, what I'm saying? So for real, I say this with gratitude, I say this with love. Thank you, and thank you to everybody who come across this and much respect. For sure.